Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for July 27th. July 27th is the 208th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 209th in leap years, with 157 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is mimesis. Mimesis, simply put, is a noun that means imitation or mimicry, such as a representation or imitation of the real world in art and literature. Interestingly, mimesis can also refer to the deliberate imitation of the behavior of one group of people by another group, and in this respect can be a factor in social change. In zoology, mimesis is another term for mimicry, as in the way, say, a butterfly or a moth might sport coloring or decoration that camouflages them against a tree or that frightens a predator away by looking like the predator's predator. The word mimesis comes ultimately from Greek. First known use of the word mimesis is around 1586. Mimesis. The word mimesis was suggested by one of my viewers, and if you have a word you'd like to suggest for Word of the Day, pop it in the comments and we'll take a look at it. And with that, the Navigation Acts, or Acts of Trade and Navigation, were a long series of English laws that sought to regulate shipping, trade, and commerce between other countries and with its own colonies. On July 27, 1663, the English Parliament passed a second of those acts, and this one required that all goods going to the American colonies must be sent in English ships from English ports. They were looking to rein in the market. Couldn't be letting those colonists get whatever they wanted from wherever they wanted. Aside from sheer control, losing control of the supply chain would mean missing out on sales and taxes. Some years later, Scotland would be included in the act. On July 27, 1866, the first successful transatlantic telegraph cable was put into service. This stretched from Valencia Island, Ireland, to Heart's Content, Newfoundland. Interesting names. Telegraphy is obsolete now, but at the time it was a really big deal to be able to relay communications that quickly. Before telegraphy, it could take months to relay communications by letter. Of course, the ocean, with all that salt water and currents, was really hard on those cables, and they were always having to try to repair or replace them. But this was the day of the first successful telegraph cable put into service. It was on July 27, 1921, that researchers at the University of Toronto proved that the hormone insulin regulates sugar. This is the birthday of a fellow named Gary Gygax, born July 27, 1938. He was an American game designer and co-created a game called Dungeons & Dragons. This is a fantasy tabletop role-playing game that has developed a huge following. Mr. Gygax passed away in 2008 at the age of 69, Gary Gygax. This is the birthday of Roberta Lee Streeter, born July 27, 1942. We know her better, though, as Bobbie Gentry. She was one of the first female artists to compose and produce her own material and charted 11 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. Best known for her song Ode to Billie Joe, which I heard in my mind just as soon as I saw her name. Ms. Gentry is currently retired from the music biz. And in honor of Bobbie Gentry's birthday, let's talk about Ode to Billie Joe. Released in July of 1967, it hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on August 26th of that year, beginning the first of 4 weeks in that number 1 position. Later chosen as the title track of her debut album, the song is a story as told from the point of view of a girl who was connected to Billie Joe and portrays most effectively her family's indifference to what happened to Billie Joe. In the intervening 55 years, fans and listeners have wondered what Billie Joe and the narrator were throwing off that bridge. Ode to Billie Joe by Bobbie Gentry. Link in the description. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That description lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that is called No Really. And you can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Microphone over there. Hello. Okay. With 202 days remaining to the end of the world. End of the year. Please, not the end of the world. 202 days remaining to the end of the year. Let's read that one again. Yep, it is. That's what it's called. All right. Third time better be a charm. There's no "the" there. Start over. Attracting. Just read the whole thing over. I don't ad-lib very well. You know what? Maybe we can leave that one off. Don't alienate people who can be helpful to you. Flinging happiness all over the place. Alrighty. Back to work. I think we got it this time.